This is Fantasy Football Till Death.
V17.
Hello and happy late Halloween, my league mates. This is your host, Thomas Wright, joined alongside Sam Singer. As always, this is the Fantasy Football Till Death podcast, version 17. Well, actually, this is version 1.
Version 1, season 17, episode 10.
It is. And it was a first for you last night. Version 1 of Halloween.
Yeah.
With the kid.
Little Fright Fest.
How was that, man? I saw her. She was looking cute in a little boo costume.
Oh, thank you. It was fun. We went to Hector and Tracy Luna's house.
Shout out Hector and Tracy.
Some of you guys know that garage pretty well. It was really cool. It's cool to see the holidays through the eyes of a kid again. Not that Scarlett's aware of anything or knew what was going on, but like for the last 3 or 4 years, Halloween's kind of come and gone. It's like, oh yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But to like, we went to a pumpkin patch last weekend. You know, it's just cool. It's cool, man.
It's cool. It's fun. I mean, I can't relate to the kid part yet. But just being in this new place, it was the first time that Jess and I could actually like do a little mini decoration and hope for trick-or-treaters. Because at our last places, we didn't get any. And so we got it set up. We got the candy. We had the all set up ready. And I was like literally like a kid in a candy shop. Just like had my spider shirt on, just waiting by the door. Jess posted a photo on Instagram of me, but I was just like so hopeful. And we got like maybe like 12 different groups of kids come through, but it's so much fun. It brings you like right back. I was like giddy.
Yeah.
Like, even though I wasn't trick-or-treating, I was just like, I want these kids to come and be excited and give them candy. The whole thing is just so fun.
Cool.
So anyways, it is spooky season. And we had a spooky week last week, spookier for some than others. Sam, you want to walk us through what we got for this episode?
Yeah, we got a more traditional episode for you guys. No guest this week. Couldn't arrange it last minute, but we'll be back with a vengeance next week with a guest. So we're going to talk a little recap what happened last week. We had some trades, little state of things, current ranking situation. We've got a few new segments for you since we don't have a guest this week. We're going to dive into the anatomy of a trade, at least what your podcast hosts think makes up a good anatomy of a trade.
Love it.
We have, of course, the suicide watch list, bringing that back. I actually wonder who's on that list this week.
Yeah, it's actually anyone's game,
I think. Wide open. We'll get more into that. And we have a new segment we are going to try called F, Marry, Kill, where we are going to go through some of the top performing positional players of the last 4 weeks. Who's for real, who's a pretender, and who are we excited about? So, and then we got to bring back Gambler's Alley, and maybe we'll shoot the shit a little bit at the end of the episode. Little story time. So good episode. Stick around. Like, give us a listen. Give us a follow.
I love it, dude. I think we've been doing, I think ever since we got these mics back, I've been feeling a better flow.
It's much better.
It's empowering. It's like Thor being cast to earth without his hammer. You know, he's still Thor, but he's just way down
Something's
there.
missing.
Yeah, we just got it now. I feel powerful behind these
vibey,
mics.
honestly.
We're vibing. We are vibing. Not as much as Jason was vibing last week. He goes from a 44 ball to a 164-point win over Griffin Hunter, who enjoyed a brief stay at a happy mental place before getting knocked down. Jason goes to 2-6. Griffin Hunter goes to 4-4. I do have to say, I'm not going to fact check this, even though it's, election season and there's a lot of that going around. I have to say that 120-point swing week over week is the highest variance in the history of our league from week to week.
It has to be. I mean, Jay didn't break 50 the previous week and had a shot at 170 last week. Nuts. And didn't make nothing was different about his team. Everything was the same. I mean, he started Tyrone Tracy and, got in Pittsburgh, got CD back. So I guess that's a big change, and CD had a big game. But, Jay hasn't really made any moves all season, sticking to it. And, I'll say it worked out last week. We'll see about this week. I think he's already off to maybe a little bit of a slow start with that regression. CJ Stroud putting up 11 points last week, looking kind of
so
like
bad.
yeah,
so bad. But I love after the little bit tongue in cheek section that we threw at Jason, and by we I mean mostly me, about the captain going down with his ship. I love that he goes with the 120-point swing right after being called out in that way. So I know he sent in the group, is the whole rest of the season the outlier? Or was this game the outlier? We might agree to disagree on that, given this.
Time might tell. I'm pretty sure the way statistics works, typically the one is the outlier.
The one,
and the rest of the sample size.
The 700% increase week over week might be an outlier. Yeah,
but no, you got to give it to him. He had the people down in the engine room bailing out water so fast that ship was headed towards the bottom of the Arctic, and it sure turned around.
They did not go down with the ship. In fact, they upgraded. Yacht.
They're on a yacht now.
It's yacht season.
Yeah. They're on a yacht.
It's yacht season. So good for Jay. Tough one for Griffin Hunter. No escaping there. But we got Luke and Evan going head to head, and this was an absolutely crazy matchup. And now that I'm looking at it, it's 112 to 110. There must have been a stat correction or something, because I could have swore that Evan won by just 1 point.
Yeah, there must have been a stat correction.
Yeah, must have been a stat correction there. So I guess a little bit less climactic, but watch that in person. Watch that last play right before the Hail Mary from Jaden Daniels. Evan was needing basically one catch from Scary Terry. He was the last player remaining in the entire matchup. The play before the Hail Mary, he gets it, puts him up by a point, and he takes a big win over first place Luke, knocking Luke to 6-2. Evan on the upswing to 5-3. The team is just vibing ever since the trade. He's won four out of his last 6, something like that. So
that trade really turned things. Evan was a little dead in the water before that trade, but damn, that Baker McLaurin combo, who saw that being the best combo in the league?
Trip, Baker, McLaurin, Gibbs.
Baker, McLaurin, Gibbs, solid. Got Tyreek relevant again. Tua comes back. Hopefully he doesn't hit his head.
I mean, Springfield's team is already scary as it is, but could you imagine if he had Baker instead of Mahomes? If he had Gibbs in there, Scary Terry, geez, his team would be unbeatable.
Would be wild.
So good for Evan. He goes to 5-3. The standings are just getting mucked up here, and we'll talk about that in a second. But Kendall, Mr. Kendall Cook, I know this is a sore subject for you. He rides his first high and gets his first victory of the season. A 126-77 win over you, Sam.
Good for Ken. I want to say this. What a high-scoring week last week across the board. Only 3 teams didn't break 100, and 7 teams went 120 or higher.
Wow.
Am I doing that math right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams went 120 or higher. So Ken got off the list. Congratulations on the first win.
Oh, foreshadow.
First win, Ken. Lucky that maybe you played one of the 5 teams that didn't break 120, but nonetheless, got that first W.
I can tell you this. You will be getting a DM when you use the L word with Kendall right there. That lucky word for playing you. He's going to throw some points against stats at you and ask you about luck. I'm giving you a little forewarning there. We got to watch our words here on the podcast as media members.
Hey, you know what? It's just like with roulette. The previous roll has no imposition over the next roll.
That is true.
So look, week to week, Ken's getting rocked in the points against. But I'll say it again. When 7 teams go above 120, you got to feel happy.
Got to feel good playing the 77-point
that
team.
You paid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So Ken gets on the board. Tough one for you, Sam, going to 4-4 there. We had Ben in Springfield. Great matchup. Great matchup here. Springfield ends up pulling it away late, 136-131 to go to 4-4, bounce back to 500. Ben falls to 2-6 there. Really tough loss for Ben. It's been that kind of season for the man. He's a friend of the program, by the way.
Friend of the show, Ben.
Ben, friend of the program. Springfield looked dead in the waters, and he called up James Cook like the Undertaker dialed him up for 28 or something like that, somewhere around there, and ends up pulling out the win. So double Hattie with the 137-point performance knocks Ben down. Always tough to lose when you almost score 132.
Really sucks. Really sucks.
And it's just no fun at all. But Ben, front of the program, keep grinding, brother. You're there. Only 6 losses. A lot of season to go. Keep knocking on that door. We had Graham and Casey. I think last week we were on in the Gambler's Alley section. I told you we should never bet against Graham. You wanted to pick Casey. Graham's got something going in the locker room. It was an easy defensive matchup against Casey. Locked him up, shut the door, threw away the key. Graham goes to 6-2, currently in first place, knocks Casey down to 4-4.
Look, there won't be a time this year that I pick a Casey matchup correctly. I think it just comes down to that. You can't bet against him and can't bet with him.
Yeah, he's unpredictable, that guy.
Unpredictable son of a bitch.
And then lastly, we had Brendan and I. This one was a battle of a couple teams throwing haymakers. Felt like both of us had been trending in the right direction. I anticipated it being high scoring, and I was lucky to pull ahead there and win 145-125 over Brendan. Some nice performances from some guys that I'm sure he didn't expect to do that well.
The 43 combined points from Calvin Ridley and Lads got to feel good.
Yeah, I dialed that one up from the grave. So that was good. Brendan Kendall trade ends up being super interesting across the board. Kelsey and Olave and Kittle and Mooney, they all have really good games, perform well. Brendan's team just looking like a well-oiled machine. I mean, he took the L there, but I don't see any signs of slowing down for him. He seems like he's got players that can produce across the board. So
B took the L there, but it's his 4th straight week scoring more than 120 points.
4th straight?
4th straight week. This goes back to Brendan's fire sale text, and he shipped off everyone. He remodeled and rebuilt that locker room, and since that point.
But didn't he have a great week that week too? Like I thought he had he lost to Ken or no, not Ken.
Okay.
Lost to Luke or someone. He had a good week, and then even though he scored 120,
he scored 124. 124 lost to Spring.
Okay.
By 21 points. Nothing you can do there. Spring was the highest scoring team that week. And Brendan said, you know what? Fuck everyone on this team. We got to get the right fit. And he made a ton of moves, and he's only gone up from there. Next week, highest score, 143. Week after that, 126, and then 125. So he literally hasn't scored less than when he blew it all up. So good for you, Brendan. I mean, those moves, team's looking solid.
Team is looking solid. It was a tough loss for him. He goes to 4-4, and that division, I think we can segue here. I don't think we've really touched on the divisions and sort of the standing and outlook for a while. So I think we should dive in real quick. Just give some quick observations there. That division, 3 short of a train. Your division, I know. I'm hoping by the end of the year you find those 3 guys and you guys have at it. But Graham at 6-2 in first place. He's kind of held that mantle from the beginning of the season. Evan at 5-3 in second place there. Like I said, he's really turned it around of late. Team's looking better, and he's also managed to find himself, I feel like, in some favorable matchups of late to kind of secure that success. And then you and Brendan at 4-4. Both of you sort of jockeying for a position. You've been dealing with some brutal injuries, in-game stuff, just some bad luck. Give me your thoughts on the division as it stands now and kind of where you see it going the rest of the year.
This division still, I think, remains to be the trippiest division. Graham's just been a beast at the top the whole season so far. Like just consistent.
Yeah.
Second highest points scored over the season. Does have not very many points against as well. Actually, by far the least amount points against, but backing it up with the most points for. So by no means is it like a lucky position that he's in. Obviously, the roster's sick. He's been able to navigate not really having a super solid wide receiver core, but it just doesn't matter when you have just stout running backs and really decent quarterback play. So, yeah, Graham's looking sick. My biggest surprise, I think right now versus like when we were recording podcast week 3 is Evan. Like when Tua went down and Tyreek became basically irrelevant.
Right.
We're looking at like Evan's team, like, fuck, this sucks. Like he swung for the fences. Mahomes sucks. Xavier Worthy's not looking good. Tyreek's irrelevant.
None of the running backs were turned into
brutal. Yeah. But Evan's got one of the best teams in the league now. I mean, the Gibbs JK combo is super solid. McLaurin, Tyreek, wow, like one of the best wide receiver duos I would say in the league. And Baker Mayfield, QB1.
Yeah,
close to it.
Thing's crazy. Once, if Tyreek gets unlocked here, then things could really start looking up. I mean, if I'm Evan, I need to see that because there are some pieces. Dobbins is solid, but if you look at his stats, it's not necessarily trending up. As a Chargers fan, I can say I'm hoping that turns around, and then there's just the flex and wide receiver 3 spot can be whatever. But all that to say, he just needs to unlock Tyreek.
Just needs that top end, yeah. And that's how the team was originally built after the draft. And I think a lot of us thought like his team looked really good after the draft.
In that way, yeah.
Yeah, and he's kind of just figured out a way to recraft it in a similar fashion. I would say just with a little bit more depth. The running backs are way better now than they were after the draft. So, yeah, good on him. I mean, it's kind of
how do you see it? How do you see it kind of playing out here this last 6 weeks of the season?
For this division?
Yeah, just what's your best sort of prediction for it?
Graham's going to keep doing what he does because I think those running backs are solid. The trade that he made, and we'll get into it with Ken, to bring over Hunt clears up a lot. And that RB3, RB3 is Kareem Hunt, and that's going to eventually turn into Pacheco.
Yeah.
So that's really solid. Both those guys are through their bye, way better than Chase Brown being in that position. And Deontay getting traded, we'll see what happens with Deontay Johnson. But if he turns into if he can maintain at least a similar level to what he had with Dalton in Carolina, combined with Brian Thomas Jr., I mean, Brock Purdy, pretty solid week to week. Graham's going to stay up top. Between Evan and Brendan, I think Evan's got way more ceiling, I feel like, on his team, potentially, with where he's at right now with some of these names. But he also has a lot of risk. I mean, J.K. Dobbins never played a full season. Jahmyr Gibbs, super injury prone. Tyreek's got to still get back to where he is, and that relies a lot on Tua and the Dolphins not packing it in. So, I think I like Brendan long term. Like, he's in a more stable position. And then, I'm just sort of down in the dregs here, needing some miracles to come together on my team. So, I'd go. We finish Graham B, Evan, me.
Okay. No cakewalks in that division, though. I mean, you've just been kind of down in your luck, obviously, with some in-game injuries. That's been brutal. I mean, no one's seen a quarterback not finish the game more than once, and you've seen it a handful of times.
3 or 4 times, yeah.
Yeah, it's been absolutely brutal. So, I mean, the fact that you're 4-4, I know it's not where you want to be, but you've got plenty of time to make a move, and obviously 3 wild cards. It's anyone's game at that point. But yeah, super fun division. Super fun division. Then we got Top Gun here. We got this one is I feel like it should be more exciting records wise. Griffin at 4-4 in first place, followed by Casey at 4-4, and then Ben 2-6, Kendall 1-7. I feel like Ben and Kendall both have exciting teams that can put up points. Obviously, they've been trending in that direction. Unlucky to have the records that they have. It kind of takes away, I think, some of the drama from the division. But I guess, what are your thoughts overall on that division?
Yeah, this is an interesting division because I think all the teams are solid and everyone any given week's got a chance to win.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone in this division's been putting up points as of late, but also everyone in this division's liable to put up 75 or 85 points week to week. So, like, super up and down. I mean, I know Hunter preseason or after the draft was probably our favorite to win this division. Made a move, I think, resulted in some more depth, sending Derrick Henry for BR and Aaron Jones. Got Cooper Kupp back, Cortland Sutton. I mean, streaky though, right? Like, is Aaron Jones going to stay healthy? BR's already banged up. Cortland Sutton went from 0 targets, 0 catches to 100 yards on 8 receptions week to week. Cooper Kupp, so we'll see. We'll see. Casey, we've been saying it all year. It's like when you write his team off as like there's no shot he's going to win this week, he puts up 120 points. I don't get it. Like when you're looking at the matchups this week against Luke and Dom, it's like, okay, Casey doesn't really have a shot. He's got Jordan Mason on bye. He at one point had Jaleel McLaughlin as a starting running back. Like, there's no shot. And then Garrett Wilson catches 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter last night, and all of a sudden looks like Casey's right back in this game. So, and then Ben and
man, I mean, I wouldn't if CMC comes back and gets 80% of his normal workload. That's not a team that I want to have anything to do with.
Oh, 100%.
I don't want anything to do with it.
Oh, yeah. Not shitting on his team at all. It's just like matchup to matchup, week to week.
I know. I mean, it is what it is. The team is what's on the roster. And
he's 4-4, and that's with him not having Puka until last week, and not having Puka last week either, unfortunately. The Amari Cooper, Khalil Shakir stack going for, like, if he's lucky, 10 points a week. But yeah, you got Josh Allen, you got David Montgomery, there's just enough players on this team.
Yeah.
And once CMC comes back,
yeah,
he's gonna be really solid.
It's fun. I mean, like I said, I mentioned it last week. There's just so much parity. Like obviously Griffin at 4-4, Casey at 4-4. I would guess that Casey probably loses this week to Luke. Just looking at the matchup on paper, who knows? Griffin Hunter, he's going to be in a tough one, so that's 50-50. But I don't know. I have no idea. If Casey gets his guys back, then I think he can give him a run for his money. But Ben and Ken, both of those teams, either one of them is capable of going on a run. I see Kendall probably struggling this week against Springfield. Just doesn't necessarily on paper look like his week. So,
yeah, banged up Lamar. Yeah. Tough one.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And then lastly, huge in Japan. I feel like there's some heavy hitters at the top of this lineup. And then Jay, the highest score of the year so far, can still do his thing. But we have Luke at 6-2, me at 6-2, Springfield at 4-4, and Jay at 2-6.
For sure. My read of this division is you and Spring for sure have the best starting rosters in the league. Like, hands down. Not a lot of holes in your guys' rosters. Luke and Dom, they keep finding a way to win, but, this week kind of looks shaky. I mean, it kind of looks shaky. If Nico can come back next week, it's really going to help him. But, they traded I think a lot of depth to get Derrick Henry. Looking like T. Higgins is back to the injury bug. I mean, rolling out, I don't know who they're starting, maybe Romeo Dobbs at wide receiver 3 this week, and Madison and the flex.
He's found a way. Luke has found a way to score every week. I mean, we talked about it. Like, that goes, we could have a separate conversation about just overall draft strategy, especially as it pertains to the auction draft. But I mean, the last couple years, Luke and Dom have had a very defined, almost regimented draft strategy that's been it exactly mirrored itself year over year. And it's played out exactly the same, which is crazy to me. I mean, and taking nothing away from the strategy, obviously it's an effective strategy, but I do feel like it has worked out in the best case version of itself back-to-back years, which I think is quite something. So, I don't know. This has kind of been the case a couple years now. Luke seems to fade down the stretch, whether it's some breakdowns or some over performances start to regress to the mean. But, I'll be curious to see how it plays out here. We'll see what Nico injecting him into the lineup does. I forgot he's on the team. But yeah, it's been so fascinating to watch Luke's team week over week. Yeah,
I think, the downfall 3 years ago was, I think, not really the right moves were made down the stretch, and they were made too late. Last year, they made some moves. those moves just unfortunately didn't work out. Like he got Jamar Chase on his team last year. Like with I forget when that was, but like final 4 or 5 weeks of the season, you're looking at his roster like, this is crazy. Like this is insane. He's unbeatable. And then just got unlucky with like just some bad performances by people that shouldn't have had bad performances.
Yeah.
And I think the King Henry trade halfway through the season this year, Nico coming back week 10. So maybe they're in a better position, just improving every year on some of that strategy. And I know some buzz was made in the group chat about the fact that they've only spent $5 of their fab this year. But I think Graham put it eloquently, different strokes for different folks. And like, man, they're 6-2. They're not far off high points. It's working for them. So,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no need to reinvent the wheel if you're already doing well. So, yeah, I think it's tough to. I think for most of us to, at least what we can see visually as maybe a less involvement than other players and equate to more success is, I think, something that's hard to stomach in a lot of facets, let alone fantasy. So, but if it's working, it's working. And obviously Luke's got a lot of pieces and I don't foresee him going anywhere. So
I will say this too, like, I mean, you can use the fab budget as like an indicator of activity, but a couple years ago down the stretch, Luke and Dom had, I think, made like 4 moves or something like that. They've only made 3 moves this year. So
yeah, that's why he gets shout out every time from Kendall when it happens in the group chat. So yeah, it'll be fun. It's going to be fun to battle. Griffin Springfield's not going to go away. I mean, I think, just from pure talent perspective, obviously he deserves to make the playoffs. There's a lot of time left, so we'll see how it goes. But that's not a team I would look forward to playing. But I mean, I think the way our league is set up, having a first round bye is so game changing, and I'm just praying that somehow I can stay afloat, be in the conversation here at the top of this division to be one of the first round buys. So,
not one less game you got to play to make it to the end. Yeah,
infinitely game changing. So yeah, I think we're set up for a fun last 6 games of the season. Really, a couple teams that are kind of down there in the standings, but I mean, even at 2-6, you're only 2 games back. Kendall has put it on notice that he's only 3 games back. So, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Speaking of Ken.
Yeah, speaking of Ken.
It's that time of the week.
I don't even know what to do. What do you mean it's that time of the week? I don't know how to. I always equate that time of the week with a certain someone, and now my brain is kind of.
It's wacky, right?
It's all out of whack.
It's time for the suicide watch list. And the room is empty. The room is empty this week. We had Ken had been in the room for 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 8 episodes. And Jay had joined him for a really long time too. So I want to say tip of the hat, congratulations to both those guys, but specifically Ken for getting off the list. I noticed the coffee wasn't made when I walked in this morning, and there's no fresh donuts on the table.
Wait. When you what?
When I walked in this morning.
When you walked in?
When I walked in this morning.
As in to see that things were simpatico, or
no,
to admit yourself into the class?
To take a seat.
To take a seat?
To take a seat.
Is this your first ever appearance into the room of suicide?
I'm on the list.
Officially.
I'm on the list.
Sam, welcome to the Suicide Watch Week 9 edition.
I'd want to say thank you and everything, but this sucks. This sucks.
So you're 4-4. You've lost 2 in a row. You've had countless things go against you. You are one of the most active managers in the league. You're always battling to find an opportunity in the darkness, and yet darkness right now is all you find. Walk me through the series of events that led you onto this infamous list, and walk me through the headspace.
Let me paint a picture for you.
The floor is yours.
Let me paint a picture for you. All right?
Okay.
It's the close of week 5. I'm on a 3-game winning streak. I have the highest points total in the league. My team is looking great. I have my newly acquired Jamar Chase going off. I just saw my wide receiver core combine for 75 points.
That was a good week.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling vindicated in my draft strategy. My dudes are clicking, despite the fact that 2 of the past 5 weeks, my quarterback hasn't finished the game. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that 3 of the past 5 weeks, my RB2 hasn't finished the game. Mm-hmm. I'm still the highest point scorer in the league. I'm above 500. I'm feeling good.
Yep.
Down comes the news that Nico Collins is put on IR. Brutal. Hamstring, the worst.
I hate those.
Okay, but I'm still alive. DJ played well. I got Jamar. I got a good team. I got to make some moves. Unfortunately, I jettisoned Nico, and that's the end. That's the end for me right there. He was such a good...
That was the end of what? That you're saying that was a bad omen?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bad omen. He had such an integral role, apparently, in the locker room of my team. And me, as just like neglected... a manager that neglects his team, didn't really know that. It wasn't on the heartbeat, the pulse of my team, and I shipped him off. Yeah. Because I got to win now. Every win's important. And I shipped him to the best team in the league. And, I was graced with one more win on a miracle 0.1 point win over Jay that sent Jay to the list for a while. But that's where it ends. Over the last 3 weeks, I'm the lowest scoring team in the league. I'm now 500. I've trended down every week over the last 3 weeks. I can't even break 80 points. I think I'm going to have a challenge breaking 70 points this week. The injuries won't stop. Juju looks like he might be the guy. I got to take a risk. I just got to shore up this wide receiver situation.
Yeah.
$67 on Juju, way overspent. But you know what? I have no choice. I got to get him on my team. Mm-hmm. Pick him up. Boom. I'm feeling so excited. Literally that day, hamstring injury.
Yeah, that was...
Doesn't play a snap on my team. I had to drop him last night for Joey fucking Chestnut.
Joey Chestnut?
Yeah, fresh off of Coney Island, straight out of a hot dog eating contest. I got the Titans...
Isn't he still banned for PEDs?
Yeah, apparently. That's how bad it's gotten. Now he's on my team, third string running back for the Titans. It's just miserable. It's miserable. I had to ship off Jamar to you, so take care of him. But it's looking tough. I'm gonna have to pull like 75 miracles out of my ass to have a shot at anything, and not finishing 4-12 like I did last year. So yeah, that's why I'm on the list. Oh, and one other thing. I'm the guy that Ken got his first win against.
Oh yeah. That's tough. Do you have anything to say to Kendall?
Just congratulations. Yeah. Honestly, just congratulations.
Well, I can say, Sam, you have every right to be sitting in that chair in that cold, dark, donut-less room.
No coffee, no donuts. That's the other thing. I'm on the list, and Ken's not even here to be my spiritual shaman because he's the one that put me on the list.
He has since ascended. He has ascended. He is very proud of his team and that win, and the group chat can attest to that. I'm sorry.
3 back.
All I can say is I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the misfortune that has been laid at your feet. I can say that the night is young, that you are tied for a playoff position record-wise, that you will have Deebo Samuel coming back next week, primed to be the ultra alpha 1A in that offense, to bring something that you've been missing for a few weeks. And listen, I ended with 4 wins last year and ended up doing a last place punishment that I didn't particularly enjoy. So you're 8 weeks in with 4 wins. So it can be worse. It can also get a lot worse, but it can be a lot worse. So I know you'll keep grinding, you'll keep trucking, but dude, yeah, that's rough, dude. And I feel for you. Trust me.
You know what the feeling is like?
You have every right to vent and complain. We all deserve it every once in a while. It's when we go overboard and are constantly complaining, like we're the only ones with issues, we're the only victims out there in fantasy football. That's where it becomes something, but you have every right to sit there and vent a little bit.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like in real life when you're watching your favorite team and we got a chance this year. You got a chance at the Super Bowl this year, and the quarterback goes down, season-ending injury, and now you're trying to get excited about like, oh, I don't know, the backup. I know he's pretty bad in preseason, but like, I think it might be a chance here with him. You're trying to talk yourself into him, and you're looking at the other teams in your division, and you're like, Patrick Mahomes, Phillip Rivers. You're just like, am I really going to get that excited about fucking Brock Osweiler? But you got it. You just got to keep trucking. That's it.
That is a good analogy. Things can change in an instant, literally in an instant.
Maybe Brock will be good.
Maybe. Well, I think that's maybe a little apples to. I appreciate the analogy, but I wouldn't say it's quite exactly the same scenario. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but you'll be good, man. 4-4.
4-5. I like the sound of that. Kind of like the sound of that.
You have a chance, man.
I'm
you have a
like
chance.
A horse.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. And also, I do feel a little bad that in night one of his audition, he scored single digits for you, Mr. Breece Hall. We did just make, if it's not the biggest, one of the biggest trades, I think, of the season.
Pretty big.
In our league.
Yeah, I'd say it's big.
Yeah, it was definitely up there.
2 studs involved, a lot of players flying around.
A lot of moving pieces. We actually had a few trades. Just a quick shout out before we kind of touch into our trade segment. We did have Griffin and Luke. I don't know if we touched on it last week, but it seems like a long time ago, but I don't know if we touched on it.
I think it was like 6 days ago.
Yeah, it must have been right after we recorded.
Yeah.
Like we already touched on earlier today a little bit. He flips Henry. Gets a nice package back of B-Rob and Jones and others. We'll see how that works out. I think, could work out for both teams. Injury risks. Griffin, he needed to shore up some pieces along his roster, and he did just that. So, really cool trade there. Do we have any other big ones? Oh, we had Kendall and Graham just recently flopped.
Yeah, pretty solid trade, I think. I think for both of them. Kendall gets some long-term security at running back.
Which is what? What's the trade?
So, yes, the trade, Ken sends Kareem Hunt and Darnell Mooney. Graham sends Chase Brown, Jameson Williams. So Ken gets some long-term security at running back because as soon as Pacheco comes back, Ken's pretty fucked. He's starting Raheem Mostert as RB1. So I love that trade for Ken and for Graham. Graham immediately gets basically to put Pacheco back in the lineup before he's even back. Should be a big upgrade over Chase Brown. I mean, Kareem Hunt, the way he's been playing, and once Pacheco's back, obviously much better than Chase Brown, one would imagine. And Darnell Mooney and Jameson Williams, probably week to week, you can make the argument that it's kind of a wash. Obviously, Jameson's out this week, so they're going to have to wait for that ROI, but
Ken has Bateman, though, so he's got plenty of depth there to take care of it.
Bateman's got a huge cock.
But, yeah, very interesting trade. I think it works out for both people.
I do, yeah.
So, yeah, good on them. And then Brendan and I with a little mini micro trade there, Warren and Pearsall.
You never know what's gonna be big impact later on.
Chess, not checkers. I'm telling you. It's all about chess, not checkers. So, but that leads us in to a new segment. And I think we have a great body of evidence. Our league is very active in the trading market, which I think is one of the great aspects of it. I wanted us to dive into the anatomy of a trade.
I love it.
Because I think it's such a relevant topic for everyone in the league, right? And when you are so fantasy football obsessed, I think it's something it's hard to not think about all these moving parts in your head all the time. It's like that gif of Alan and from The Hangover walking down the stairs with all of the numbers and stuff in his head as he's about to go count cards. When I get into those modes, that's how I feel. And I think our league is really good and really active in doing that. But all that to say, I think there are levels to it.
Absolutely.
Levels to trading, levels to trade evaluation, trading partners, trading success, trading skills, abilities, all that. So I thought it'd be cool. Just we can kind of go back and forth organically. Just talking about, I think, that the key components of executing a successful trade. So I would say, firstly, I'll ask you this. When you are considering a trade, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
Well, the very first thing, like when it's starting to percolate, obviously, is how can I make my team better?
Right.
That's obviously the first question you have to ask. And obviously, that's obvious. Obviously, you have to ask that, but
It's good. I mean, that's not necessarily obvious. Like sometimes people can have different approaches. They can get fixated on
names.
I want this player.
Yeah,
and then they go attack it. So anyways, continue.
You got to think realistically, how do I make my team better? And is that because you have an imminent need right now? Is it because you feel you might be at risk? You've got a stud in a certain position, but one with the injury history, whatever it is. So you got to start with, how do I make my team better?
And so when you're in that mode, how can I make my team better? Do you have sort of a prioritization of different aspects that are probably most necessary to attack first, right? Like, how do I make my team better? I'm weak in this position, so I really need to shore it up. Or,
exactly.
Or like you said, or down the road, I won't feel as good about this possession. So let me see if I can have some long-term success. Are you looking at like what's going to affect me most immediately right now?
Well, it's multifaceted, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a win now situation, then yeah, you absolutely need to look at, where am I weakest right now? How do I immediately get return on investment so that I can continue maximizing my chances to win immediately?
Yeah.
If you're fortunate enough to have some padding, to be in a more advantageous situation from a record standpoint, then you can start thinking about down the road. What am I looking like? Fantasy playoff. What are matchups looking like? Oh, like so-and-so has been really, really good for me this year at the running back position, but during fantasy playoffs, they play 3 of the hardest run defenses in the league. Maybe that's something you consider. Bye weeks. Oh, fuck, everyone on my team is on bye weeks 11 and 12. Can I afford to lose the last 2 weeks heading into the season? So it just depends.
Absolutely. Okay, so you identify how can I make my team better, and then what's your next approach?
So after you identify or have some idea of what you think would make your team better, now you got to look at what you have to offer. Mm-hmm. Maybe I want to get better at the wide receiver position, and I'm weak at the wide receiver position because I've got a lot of running backs on my roster and pieces outside the wide receiver position I can move. So it's like a puzzle, and now you know what you have to offer and what you want to gain.
So this is how I see it. When you say what I have to offer, the way that I think of it, and I'm sure some people out there like Griffin Hunter will disagree with this because of some traits in the past that he finds very questionable. But when I'm thinking what I have to offer, I'm thinking, how can I make someone else's team better? And that's something that I take sincerely to heart when I'm now scouring the league. I think of, okay, ideally I'd like to improve in this situation. But one way that I sometimes differ to start is I start with that. I start with the, how can I improve someone else's team, and then work my way backwards. So I might, we spend a lot of time in the app in this league. We pretty much know different teams' rosters. We know what they're made of, right? Like a little bit too much.
A little sad. Hannah asks me that sometimes. I'll be like, oh, so-and-so just did something. That's on that guy's team. And she's like, everyone's roster? I'm like, I do. Yeah. I do.
It's a curse we all suffer from. Potentially not Casey, but most of us. Yeah. And maybe not Luke. But I'm thinking, hey, so-and-so I know for a fact could probably improve in this way. I'm checking out their team. I'm confirming it. And then I'm looking at my team like, okay, can I improve theirs? Right? Can I improve theirs? Obviously, you want to find a way to also improve your team at the same time. Mm-hmm. But you have to, I think, very critical to look at another team and think to yourself, am I going to improve this team?
Yeah, and so another way to say that, right, is there's 2 ways to identify opportunity. Obviously, the opportunity on your own team to get better, an opportunity that may exist or arise externally based on the needs of another team. In both cases, it's sort of like a puzzle piece that you're looking for the matching hole on the other side.
I like holes.
I like holes.
Which I think brings us to another interesting point that is very case by case for different managers, how they operate, how they view the trading market, how they view their own team, what they consider needs or what they consider important to their team at that point in time. Whether it's certain managers might be more prone to ride it out, to deal with dips, the ebbs and flow of the season, because they just feel confident, A, in the guys they drafted, or B, in the current makeup of their team, and expect positive regression from where they are. B, guys that just B, no pun intended, B, guys that are very prone to making changes week to week, just looking at things under a microscope for that week, thinking, does this improve me right now? Do I like this change? Does it help me mix it up in a positive way? And then C, the guys that just really are in need, like that are really hurting, right? Like, and you have to understand the different managers in the different leagues when they view the time to move, because not all of us are ready to move at the same time. Even if someone is feeling like they're in need, they might not be ready to move.
Yeah, exactly. What you're talking about now is, I call it reading the room.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're at the point that you've identified an opportunity, whether intrinsically or extrinsically, but now you have to assess where that opportunity exists. You know, if you've identified a want or a need on your team, and now you're going to go to the league, you're going to look at the 11 other teams in the league. Yeah, you're going to need to read the room. Is there an opportunity to do something with B? And there's also an opportunity to do something with Jason. Okay, well, this is two very different approaches between these guys, and neither is right or wrong, but you have to read the room with that and how you then approach the situation. You know, ultimately, this is all leading towards a negotiation. So, absolutely. Yeah, it's important to read the room.
All leading to a negotiation, which I think that's an important aspect of it, how you even enter into the negotiations, right? So how do you feel like is the most successful way to execute, I think, just initial early talks?
Again,
case by case,
it
right?
is case by case, but I think in general, you as someone presenting an offer need to go in with an open mind as well.
Yep.
And I think in most cases, you probably don't want to go in and like lowball. Like, this is not fucking real estate. This is not yeah, the house is listed at 800,000, but you don't go in at 800,000 to start, right? Like, especially in a league where we've all known each other for a long time and we are all friends and we are 100%. All savvy and have our own opinions about our players and everything. Yeah, it's to go in with a low ball immediately can just shut it down to begin with.
Yeah.
And like, even if you then follow up with a super reasonable trade, like you run the risk of putting someone off so much to start that it's like, okay, we're never going to get to where we need to be.
Right. Yeah. I think that's so important. I think if you don't already have a good feel for your league mates, then try to figure it out, because when it comes to trading, it's the people that I think are the most open-minded that are going to be the most successful in general. Like you said, that's just a rule of thumb. But B, also the people that have traded with multiple people understand how different people, different league mates operate, because, you know, not to call anyone out specifically, but you can't have the same approach with every single person in the league, because you'll just never be successful that way. Like me personally, I feel like I'll be entertain most things, but if you were to speak to me like I don't know exactly what's happening, like you're overselling a player, it's like I can read through that in 1 second, right? It's just not going to work. Me, I'll shut down after that. It's like, okay, you're not being serious here.
Exactly.
Right? You can't, like, you're not going to coach me on a certain player, how involved they are in offense, their stats, what they've done the last X amount of weeks. It's like, I could have told you that about your player. You know what I mean? But maybe for some people, those stats and that stuff would be important as you're selling someone to someone.
For sure.
But you have to just know that, like, and you have to attack it in that way.
For sure.
So I think it's interesting. I love the idea of trading. It's so multi-layered, and I think it's just awesome when you add the different personalities to the mix. But yeah, for me, I think we're kind of in agreement on a lot of things. Being open-minded, thinking, how do you improve your team? Where's the priority and need, and how quickly does it need to be addressed? How important is it? How do I translate that to another team in need? What am I willing to offer to improve that team? And if I'm not serious about giving something, then I shouldn't expect to get something. And you should bring a serious offer to the table. And then just, knowing your league mate, knowing how to speak to them, knowing how to engage in them, what buttons to press, how to, have it be a fun conversation at the same time. So it's not aggravating or annoying or off-putting one way or the other. So.
Yeah. And something else I guess I'll say is, I guess don't be afraid to test the waters, but B kind of touched on this when we had him on the show, which was like, and again, everyone's different. So maybe some people would appreciate this, but I don't really appreciate when someone comes to me and is like, hey, I want to make a trade. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah.
Like
bring something to the table.
There's certain versions, but it's like, now you're making me negotiate against myself, I would rather have someone come to me with like, hey, like hat in hand, this is exactly what I'm thinking. I don't know how you feel about that. And like, as long as it's open and it's not,
right.
I want your best player for my worst player. It's like, if you frame it in a way where like, hey, we can at least have a conversation about this. I'm willing to like explore the boundaries of a good and a bad deal and everything like that. Yeah. So
it's funny that you said that, because with B in particular, I've done 3 trades with B this year, which is, it's got to be close to a record, I think, for any 2 managers to have done in a single season with each other. But I learned throughout the process that he responds much more open when you actually have an offer. Because I'm less inclined to start with the offer. I'm more inclined to ask if they have interest in not just a vague sort of general, like, you want to make a trade. I'll usually open with the player that I'd like to give, or I'm exploring. Like, hey, do you have interest in this player and this player, or just one of these players? Just to see, like, if you don't, then there's no point in us having the conversation.
Exactly.
I won't waste your time. If you are, then okay, and then we can kind of talk combinations. But I had taken that approach with B, and I could tell he's like, what? Just throw an offer out. I'm like, okay, yeah. So the last trade, I just didn't even no small talk. I just was like, I offered something, just like,
you don't have to break the ice sometimes.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I mean, that's something that I'm interested in. Let me think. Let me take a look, and then we ended up doing it. But it's funny.
And that goes back to reading the room. I think it's totally fine to say, hey, gauging your temperature, do you have any interest in this person? Because if the answer was no to begin with, then why like concoct a whole deal in your head and make a pitch if it's like, honestly, I'm not even interested to begin with,
right.
But for sure, reading the room. And one other thing I will say, like, on the anatomy of a trade, on trade etiquette, is like negotiating good faith, and there's that means a lot.
Yeah.
That means don't waste anyone's time. Like, even if someone has come to you with what you think is not a great deal because like the player involved on your squad is like your favorite player or whatever, like that doesn't mean that the other person's trying to rip you off. So like give some grace with that. No one, especially in our league, we're all at the point where no one's trying to swindle anyone else. Right. Like, we're all friends. We've all known each other for a really long time.
I mean, you just shouldn't be able to swindle someone.
Yeah.
That just, you shouldn't be able to take candy from a baby.
Exactly.
That concept shouldn't exist. So because that concept shouldn't exist, you should not assume that someone is trying that.
For sure. And then the final thing is like, and again, people can have different opinions on this, but if you come to a handshake agreement, honor it. Don't like say, okay, well, actually, I'm going to get back to you because now I'm going to go talk to 3 other people and see if I can use the pieces that I agreed with you to do something else. Like, it's okay to say, let me think about this.
Right.
But don't say, send it over and then disappear for, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I get that. And it's funny. So even just speaking about the trade that we just made, there was, I feel like, a decent amount of back and forth. I felt like we had conversations regarding those guys as centerpieces for at least a week or 2, nothing crazy serious, just maybe like a text and then disappear. And then on Tuesday, when we were serious about it, it was like quite a bit of back and forth that I felt started almost in the morning with a couple like DJ Moore only trade, for a couple guys. And then way later it transformed into the like, Brees and Jamar in there.
Yeah, we could go through our whole anatomy.
Yeah. So
trade as I remember it, but yeah.
was,
I think it started with DJ for Calvin and Rome. I think is where we broke the ice.
We broke the ice on a joke, right? Or it was more like we were talking about obviously some frustrations with the lineup, how much it sucked that Moore has been underperforming like crazy, but B, he couldn't even like manage a good week of late just to boost his trade value in the here and now, because the recency bias aspect of it, having 13 points next to your recent game compared to 5 is going to do wonders for your trade value, right? We were kind of talking about that. And I had been in a position where I loved my upstart receivers as like, I feel like one of these guys or two of these guys will turn into guys that I feel really good starting or just comfortable starting in conjunction with the guys that I have ROS. So I liked him in that way, but I also felt like I had too many of them. Like I didn't want so many of the same type of like upstart sort of guys, right? So me being in the mindset of wanting to trade them, I jokingly was like, okay, fine. If you want, you can have so-and-so and so-and-so. I'll take more off your hands, right? That was how it started, but it didn't go anywhere. It was kind of taken, I think, at the joke value.
Right.
But
it was because of the group chat, and they were comparing DJ Moore to Garrett Wilson and all that. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, did you bet, by the way, Moore against Wilson, ROS?
Yeah. DJ's going to outscore for your sake.
I hope for my sake that ends up being true. But we planted it. So obviously in that moment, you know that I have some interest in Moore. And obviously I know you're frustrated with Moore. I'd also spoken about it in the past, but that parlayed into just like whatever conversation about fantasy. Later on down the road, it was funny. I was in LA finishing up a work dinner, and
you went?
Yeah, I went.
Nice.
Yeah, I went.
Story
I
time.
went.
Okay.
Yeah. I went. Yeah, I met the squad for the first time.
You went.
I went. I did it. Seeing a bunch of people in person that you normally just see remote is kind of weird. There is that little element at first where you're like, oh my gosh, you look better on camera.
I digress.
But I sent you the Brees and Ladd to start. Brees and Ladd for Chase, right?
Brees and Ladd for Chase, yeah.
And then you countered it with, what was it? Ridley, Ladd, and Brees for Chase and Braylon or something like that.
No. It was, we're so prepared on this show, on this segment, but I can tell you, we've had so much back and forth.
A lot of planning for the podcast, we got to say.
Yeah, we just are planning left and right.
Maybe control find.
Okay, it was we had a lot of back and forth. Chase Hopkins for Ladd, Brees, Ridley.
Chase Hopkins for Ladd.
That's what you.
Oh, that's what I
came
said
to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Are we losing our viewers?
I thought you had the text. I'm waiting for you to
There's too many texts. There's too many texts. Yeah. So you said, Ladd, Brees for Chase. I asked if you would include Calvin Ridley. I said, and you said Brees, Rome, Ridley. This is for Chase, I think. I said...
You added Braylon. I know you added Braylon somewhere,
I said
right?
Jamar, Juju, Calvin Austin for Ladd, Brees, and Ridley. And then you said Chase Hop for Ladd, Brees, Ridley. And we honed in. And then finally, you said ETN, whatever. We ended up settling on
So we went back and forth, and then we settled on ETN Chase for the combo.
Yeah.
This was to go back to your point. I verbally agreed, but I was doing all this while driving back from LA. So I was in the car, just trying to like figure things out. I wasn't
texting and driving.
Yeah,
the old texting and trading and driving.
Texting and trading and driving. I actually got a text from Jess that said, "Don't text and drive," because I accidentally texted her one of my offers to you. She said, "Don't text and drive." I was like, shoot, got red-handed. So I saw it. I verbally agreed to one version of it. And then I was just like, man, I'm literally just going off of text. I'm not like diving in.
We verbally agreed to ETN and Chase for Ladd, Brees, and Ridley.
Ladd, Brees, and Ridley. And I was thinking Etienne might not play. Also, I'm not looking at things necessarily on paper, so I feel a little sketched out there. We're playing each other this week. I'm losing 3 guys that I'm going to be starting that you will probably then start. And I'm just thinking, like, I know I have room to work here, but am I setting myself for a loss this week? And then I'm just not sure about Etienne. So I verbally agreed, but then I backtracked. You sent it over, and I declined it right away. And it's like,
yeah, it was
sorry.
Right. It was immediate.
I was like, yo, sorry. Like, actually, let me think about it. And as soon as I did that, dude, I felt like this pit in my stomach. I felt awful. Like, I was like, I'm losing some of the integrity of the game there. I just didn't feel good about it.
Integrity.
And so that was part of the reason once we re-entered, because I know that you were like, oh man, wow. I can't believe you went back on it, which I felt the same way. And then a little time went by. We kind of joked back and forth about how maybe I saved you or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
The trade. And then you shot back the combo of what we said earlier with the DJ Moore, plus a new one for Jamar with the Lad Brees.
Yeah, and DJ, the trade that ended up happening.
The trade that ended up happening.
DJ and Chase for Ridley, Rome, Lad, and Brees.
Brees, yeah. And then I ended up accepting part of why and this was still on the car ride, so it's not like I took a deeper dive into it. Actually, no. I had just gotten home. I don't want to lie to the viewers. Part of the reason was because I said no the first time, and I was like, you know what? I need to honor this trade, honor this deal, and that was that. And I felt like
read the room, i.e., read the room.
We had the handshake.
I should have asked for AJ Brown. I had you in an emotionally compromised position.
You actually did. I'm like, dude, that's. I just feel unethical. I feel unethical about making the handshake deal. I know nothing was in paper, in writing, but I did feel bad about it.
Well, no, it's important. It's important as part of the anatomy of the trade. It's important. I will say we kind of had a text agreement. I sent the trade, and you, I think 2 minutes later, rejected it. So it wasn't like, okay, great. I went to bed and woke up in the morning and saw that it was rejected.
I mean, as soon as it was sent over, I rejected it. But
and you also said you were driving and everything like that. So no, like I appreciate that.
All that to say, I did feel bad.
And as a result, both of our teams got worse. So
that was a situation where somehow we both felt worse about it afterwards.
Yeah, you texted me the next day, hey, like, how are you feeling about the trade? And I'm like, I think I'm feeling good, but my team looks horrible now.
And I said somehow we're both going to lose the trade massively somehow. Yeah.
So anyways, well, that's kind of the anatomy of a trade in a weird, convoluted way. Thanks for bearing with us, guys. Is anyone still listening? Ben, are you still there?
Ben, shoot us. Give us something. Give us a ghost. Give us a ghost emoji, Ben, if you're listening.
Thanks, Ben.
A ghost.
Anyways, well, that's the anatomy of the trade. Hopefully, obviously this is all subjective and there's no right or wrong way to do it. Would love to, I don't know, maybe get some engagement.
Hold on, can I just, speaking of the anatomy of a trade, I just need to, I need to call out this live trade because this is awesome. So I asked Casey about a potential trade for David Montgomery. And, so I said Irvin and Njoku for Montgomery. Casey doesn't really have much of a tight end. So I thought maybe, to me, I thought that could be a win-win for both of us. Casey said he'd need Njoku and either DJ Moore, Jamar Chase, or Bijan Robinson instead of Irving. So how about Njoku and Bijan Robinson for Montgomery?
For Montgomery?
That's good for me.
I would say I would send it, but ask if he can include Amari Cooper.
Casey, I love you, man. I guess we'll just probably never make a trade. Njoku and Bijan for Montgomery.
I mean, this is to what I was just saying. Different strokes for different folks. This is all subjective. There's no right or wrong way to do it definitively. And who knows? Maybe Casey catches you in a weird mood, driving something, just having fed a pet Mila, and you agree to that, and you do ship. Oh, he's calling me now. Should we get him on the show?
Yeah, get him on the show. Yeah, get him on the show. Get him on. Get him on.
Yo,
how's it going?
Good. We're recording the podcast right now. You're on live.
Casey, you're live, my friend.
I'm following up on some emails, and I needed some quick input.
Oh, some work stuff?
Yeah.
Casey, you're live on the podcast, man.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Do you want to really quick just give some live, real time commentary on your and Thomas trade discussions. I
I
think
would love to get some commentary on the frustration that I'm feeling right now of the lack of trading capabilities I'm getting from Kendall.
Oh yeah, let's hear about it. We'd actually love that'd be great. So let the league know your frustrations with Kendall and trading.
I'd love to announce that he is very infuriating, and I'm sure it's no news to the group. Came at me with a nice little text like, "Hey, should we put together a trade that would really get everybody on edge?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." 24 hours later, still trying to put something together, and it's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then, no, actually, I'm going to pull this one back. Need to see how Puka's doing. Got to get in his head and see really what's going on in there. So at this point, I've just got blue balls over here.
Blue balls.
But yeah, that's me. How's everyone else doing?
can we get a real? Do you want to do a real time counter, Thomas?
I can't. Casey, I just got your text, but I can't send you Bijan and Jamar and Joku. For Montgomery.
It wasn't all the above. It was
no. I know, but I can't in good faith send you Joku and one of those guys for Montgomery. Montgomery's worse than them on his own, right? Or no?
Yeah, but I feel like Montgomery right now, he's like the belle of the ball. Everybody wants a piece, so high value.
That's true. Okay, that makes okay. I respect that. There's just the demand. There's supply and demand. There's a lot of demand for him, so his price goes way up.
Demand.
There's inflation. There's Montgomery inflation.
There's inflation. So it goes beyond actual fantasy value at this point. It's market value.
Market, yeah. We only care about fair market value here. Right now, he is very unfairly valued, and I'm going to take advantage of that.
Ken, thanks for driving the market up, man.
We call that price gouging, but you know what? You gotta eat.
To think as well. Sam is also in this.
Sam, what? You're price gouging? You didn't tell me you're price gouging me too.
I wasn't. I was price gouging. Yeah, I was trying to get Montgomery yesterday, and it was going to be a Wilson Brees Montgomery situation, and then Brees scored.
Dodged a bullet there.
Brees scored 9 points, and Wilson had 2 touchdowns.
So what happened? So you had something going, and then Kendall price gouged you, and now he's then inherently price gouged me.
That's what it sounds like.
I'm actually really thankful for Kendall's last minute throwing his hat into the ring, trying to go for Monty, and which was disrupting the trade capabilities that Sam and I had, and it postponed the trades, which I'm really happy for, because at the end of the day, Wilson really decided to show up. And
Wilson has a huge cock. I know. We get it. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Kendall.
As far as work emails go,
Kendall, thank you for exposing Wilson's cock. I think that is what we have to take away.
Yeah, I don't know where he got those pictures.
Key takeaway.
Yeah.
Well, Casey, we're going to finish this up. Sam will call you back in 10 minutes.
Okay.
That's Casey Luna, a quick little guest appearance on the Friend of the Pod. We still have to have the Casey episode. We still need, so who do we still need on the show? We need
Casey, Ken, Jason, Ben.
And potentially Evan on the Skype.
And Evan on the Skype.
He had a quick phone call. Okay. Graham, you say Graham?
And Graham. Yeah, I said that.
So it's 6.
Yeah.
And I do
raise your hand if you haven't been on the podcast.
I do want to put this out there. Sam and I are tossing around an idea of a dual feature. So we want to think about, we've thought about the concept of an election special, having 2 people and, pitting them somewhat playfully against each other on a series of topics, debate style. It could also divulge, obviously, not into just a debate thing, just having 2 people on and running them through certain fun segments as a duo. But if you're interested, the remaining people that haven't been on the show, if you're interested in being one of the 2 people that go on together, or if you in the group have a fun recommendation of a combination of 2 people that have yet to be on and you'd like to nominate them, please feel free to do so. We think it would be sort of a fun concept to have 2 people on at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, just to emphasize that, because I just noticed we're going on hour 2 of the podcast. So for all 3 of you still listening.
Yeah, we really trailed off with this trade thing. So I think that we axe that the F, Marry, Kill. We hit that maybe next week.
Oh, yeah.
And let's just cruise into Gambler's Alley.
Gambler's Alley, sponsored by
Miller Lite.
Lime by.
We've been on a little bit of a drought here. I think I had one miraculous win. I don't know if it'll ever be done again. We've had a couple guests on the past couple weeks that have,
throwing their hat in the ring.
We
got close with spring. I think we were one game away with spring.
Were we?
Yeah, pretty sure.
I haven't even been following it at all.
Yeah. We'll have to check the database on that. But yeah, I think we were one game away with spring. A little bit more even last week with Hunter.
Okay. Well, let's just do it. Let's line up against each other. Gambler's Alley, Week 9 matchups. We're at $100 for the winner. We have to get 6 out of 6, the perfect parlay, and I'm going to lead us off this week, Sam.
All right, let's do it.
And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with Luke and Casey, and I'm actually going to go with Casey. I'm going to take it. I think the Wilson thing is huge, and I think what you said earlier about just any given week, when you think Casey's done, he's not. And I also need him to win so I can try to get first place in that division. So I'm taking Casey.
You take Casey. That leaves me with Luke and Dom. And the next pick and your next guaranteed situation is I'm going to go to our game. I just have to because I'm going to just get shat on so much this week. Give me the honor of at least picking you in our matchup.
It's still young. The match it's anyone's game.
Okay, if I get 35 points from Ladd, if I get another 25 from Calvin Ridley, if Joey fucking Chestnut catches 2 touchdowns, if DeAndre Hopkins goes for 46 and a touchdown, maybe I'll have a chance.
Okay, babe, do you think Graham or Griffin Hunter is going to win this week? Okay, Jess has been hearing good things about Graham's team. For my second game, I'm going to go back to the well. I'm going Graham Simmons. Like I said, I'm not going to stop picking Graham's team until he stops making me money. So
it's a good
give
pick.
Me Graham over Griffin Hunter this week.
It's a good pick. And we're getting down to it here. We've got another close matchup, at least on paper, between Jay and Evan. And I am going to go with Evan.
All right. I like that. Ev's got to figure out the tight end spot there, but
too bad he doesn't have Njoku.
He could have Njoku. He dropped Njoku, didn't he?
He dropped Njoku, yeah.
One man's trash, another man's treasure. I'm looking at Jay's team. Tracy, I thought was going to be out. He's one of those rare cases where some guys take 3 weeks to clear concussion protocol, and it looks like he did it in 3 days. So
brain heal fast.
Give me Jay's team. Jay and I actually are kindred spirit with a couple players in my work league. So we both have CD, we both have Tank Dell, and I'm expecting CD to have a huge game this week. So I'll take Jay.
All right, and that leads us to final 2 matchups. We have Ben and Brendan, and we have Ken versus Spring.
Ben and Brendan. Can we go there?
Yeah.
I'm going to do something that's going to shock the world here.
Let's do it.
I am going to go with Mr. Ben.
No.
I'm going to go with Ben. I'm going to give Ben his time. I think this is the week that me and him really start seeing eye to eye with his team because it's starting to grow on me. And it has mostly to do with Cedric Tillman in there in the starting lineup. So
Cedric Tillman's so sick. He's so sick.
Brendan might be another tough luck loser this week in a high-scoring affair.
Man, did we just hear you compliment Ben's team on the podcast?
I'm turning a new leaf. Ben and I had a good conversation this morning. I felt like I really leveled with him about, him as a manager and his team. And we found some common ground. So I'm giving you my blessing as Pastor T, pastor of the Fantasy Football Till Death League. And take me to the promised land, Ben.
Let's go, Ben. Make it happen. Brings our final matchup is Ken versus Spring. It's my pick. I got to go Spring. And I got to be honest, most of this is just animosity, a little bit of vicarious revenge for Spring against Ken. So let's go Spring. Bring it home.
I like it. All right, Ken.
Put Ken back on the list. Someone's got to make this coffee and donuts in here.
I don't know. I honestly, now that he's won, is there I don't know if we can put him back in the box. Like I don't. Can
No.
Ken get on the list? Ken is still, no matter what, Ken is still so high on his team
Yeah.
and his players and the whole situation. Maybe like deep down, like there was some group chat projection on other people of his frustration, but it's hard to see it. It's not like a tangible suicide watch that's just staring you in the face.
That's true. But someone's got to be on the list.
We need more vitriol on the list.
We need more vitriol. Yeah, we got to see what happens. Honestly,
there's some really heavy hitters in vitriol. Griffin Hunter, I feel like he's there. I think you got some off your chest this week. I feel like I have a lot in the tank for vitriol. Like if
I pull it out this week, you might be on the list next week.
Hard to imagine unless 3 guys go down. Then there might be some.
Oh, that'd be double. But you might be on the list for a while if you lose and it's because 3 of your guys went down.
Yeah, we'll just call it quits. But yeah, there's our Gamblers Alley. I think it's a good mix there. We both have some heavy favorites in the mix. So
hell yeah. Well, boys, what do you think of this 2-hour podcast? Do people like it?
Wait. Let them respond. Let's have some awkward silence as they respond to the 2-hour podcast comment. It was amazing. 2 hours.
Is anyone still there?
It was fun. What is our count here, by the way?
Yeah, we're going on 2 hours.
Going on 2 hours. That's awesome. Well, hey, we apologize for that. We were just having fun. I guess we were just like hanging out and we forgot that we were recording a podcast. Yeah. So there's that. Sam, one thing I wanted to mention, is it possible, like last week I was like, let's take a moment and let's vibe to this outro music. I was hoping that the outro music would start when I said, let's vibe to this outro music.
Yeah.
So if I said it again, is it possible that the outro music starts when I say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Here we go.
I'm ready.
Round 2. Guys, that was episode, I don't even know. My brain's not working, of the FFtilD podcast. Thank your host, Sam Singer. He does a great job editing this. And because of that, he can do this. Let's take a second and vibe to this outro music. It's Jess's favorite song, by the way, now. Literally, that song is her favorite song. So vibe out, guys. Best of luck to everyone except...
Fuck you, Thomas.
I genuinely forgot that I was playing you. That was hurtful. You should see the look in Sam's eyes.
Yeah.
He's feisty this week.
Yeah.
Love you, gents. We'll catch you next week.
Peace.
Ricky Martin, dildo duct tape to his chest. Bring your kids out, night goggles, leather pants, and a vest. Danny DeVito, Tammy's getting on. OJ's lurking. I'm addicted to fentanyl. It ain't gonna lie, work by a guy who tries to make sense. Pulling shoes in a fedora. Look at me, bitch, I'm a fucking champ. I'm a fat bitch, tell me where I need to see your face is looking dry. I'ma turn it to a race. I'm on Instagram, tell me what's your handle. If you follow me, I'ma let you lick my sandal.